Hello AFC Bournemouth fans. On Saturday, AFC Bournemouth entertain Burnley. Always a tough team and always got that emotional connection because of Eddie Howe too. And of course, the Do You Remember question on the podcast, well, that had a Eddie Howe Burnley sort of link as well. As you can see, I'm joined by Mr. Jeff Hayward. Jeff, how are you?
Pretty good still, Sam.
Excellent stuff. And yeah, it's going to be a very interesting match at the weekend. Burnley, never an easy team to play. And of course, you watched the highlights of their last match against Newcastle, didn't you? What did you think of them?
We know what we're getting with Burnley. A very tough team who I think have done pretty well against us at the Vitality last couple of seasons. They beat us last season, as I remember. They're awkward, they're big, they're physical. They got a big bloke up front. They do play that long ball and set piece game really well. They're going to be tough. I think also perhaps the sort of history between Eddie and Burnley complicates things in not a good way. I think Sean Dyche, who wouldn't like to experience a Sean Dyche team talk? I would imagine he gives this guy who used to be the Burnley manager card and plays that quite strongly and says this is for the pride of the town that you've got to do this. So yeah, it's going to be a tough one. And I think what Burnley did last season was they sat back and hit us on the break a bit. So be interesting after our performance against Chelsea. Quite the game, the shape that we play. Not quite sure what to expect, if I'm honest.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, Eddie Howe, he had his press conference this morning. So let's see what he had to say. So, of course, one of the key issues that's been plaguing us over the last couple of months is the injury crisis. But Eddie says we're as we were. He doesn't think there are any returnees. Josh King did pick up a twisted ankle after the game. Andrew Sermon's got a calf problem, but he's going to make a late call on Josh. Usually what that means is he'll play. He's done that a few times before, but I can't face the game without Josh King being up front. We'll see how that goes. Now, on last week, Eddie said, we showed how much the game means from our body language. We had the benefit of giving everything. Burnley, of course, contrasting styles to what Chelsea are, and Eddie said they have a very distinct style of play. They're a very effective team. The main thing about Chelsea for me was our mentality out of possession, and he wants to see that again. In Burnley team news, they may be missing Chris Wood. And Eddie said, I don't think it matters who they play. Their strength is very much in their philosophy. It is unique in the Premier League, but it is effective. Last season, we didn't do well against their strengths. It's 5 years. It's 5 years of AFC Bournemouth being in the Premier League, of course, 2015, and we're heading into 2020. Unbelievable what we've achieved. And Eddie was asked, what's he learned? And he said, you're learning all the time. You never stop. When you're in the job, that's one of the beauties of it. Tactically, mentally, you're pushed to the very extreme at this level. It's difficult to give a definitive answer. Now, you'll see on Twitter there are various teams of the decade. These tweets that I'm quoting you are from Peter Rutzler from The Athletic, the home of amazing written AFC Bournemouth content as well. And you can follow Peter at Peter Rutzler. And guess what Eddie's moment of the AFCB decade 2010 to 2020 was? Of course, it's that game against Bolton. He said it will live long in the memory. That was the moment we had the feeling it was going to happen. There was a really special feeling around the ground that day. So what's going to happen in 2020 in terms of January? Transfers, originally he said probably unlikely to happen, but he said, I think our priority is to get injured players back fit. Once we do, the squad looks strong. It depends on how our injuries go between now and then. And he hasn't ruled out anything in the transfer windows. Now, one of the strengths this season for AFC Bournemouth has been Diego Rico. And Eddie said he's done really well. Possibly last week was one of his best performances. He had a big change coming into this league. He settled very quickly away from the game. This season, he's done very well. His left foot has been a weapon for us. So yeah, with regards to this injury crisis, then it seems from what Eddie said, with of course Nathan Ake, Steve Cook posted a video on Instagram of his wrist sort of moving very well. So maybe a surprise return to the bench, but it looks like he's going to be ruled out. Harry Wilson again ruled out, back in Liverpool, undergoing all things medical, and Josh King's going to be a 50-50. But other than that, I think we're pretty much unchanged. My main thing is, please, Josh King, please be fit. Okay, so that was Eddie Howe in his press conference this morning. Jeff, in terms of AFC Bournemouth, what team would you like to see? Because it looks like Harry Wilson's going to be back. He's coy as ever, so you never quite know. It's a difficult one because they're going to line up very different to what it was against Chelsea. Chelsea, of course, they're a very offensive side, like to flow forward, and they can transition very quickly from defence into attack. Whereas Burnley, a lot more resolute, structured, well drilled. They'll have a real rigid lineup, and I just fear it's going to be one of those matches where we really struggle to break through. So what team formation do we do? Because does this warrant a 5 across the midfield again?
No. If I was going to move anybody out of the side, and I don't really want to do this because he'll be useful for set pieces, I'd be inclined to rest Phil Billing, put him on the bench. I'd play Gosling and Lerma in that central twin axis of midfield. I'd play Lewis Cook still on the right, and I'd play Harry Wilson just in front of Gosling and Lerma. I think that's what I'd do, because I think that will give us a bit more creative edge going up front. Yeah. And if we're going to have more of the ball, I think we're going to need Harry Wilson in the starting 11. I think also Harry Wilson on just the flank, let's say he picks him and plays him where Lewis Cook played last week. Well, that physicality that Burnley have, I'd be uncomfortable about him having that wing back kind of role or winger sort of role. So yeah, that's what I'd be inclined to do.
Yeah, very tough. Burnley are now an established Premier League side, aren't they? They're not a team that you would think are going to be in the relegation dogfight. And credit to Sean Dyche, for keeping them where they are. But I think you're right. There is always that kind of, I need to get one over the previous manager. So there is a little incentive there, and I'm sure that Eddie Howe does the reverse for his Bournemouth side when he's wanting to get one over them. Maybe he doesn't tell the players that, but for him, I think it's vitally important. When we won 2-1 there a couple of seasons ago, was it last season or season? Can't remember. Anyway, you could see he was absolutely jubilant with getting that result. So, what's going to happen then, Jeff? Are we going to win it?
Well, the way Burnley have played their last couple of away fixtures, they were heavily beaten by Spurs, which is kind of encouraging. They've been probably a bit more inconsistent this season than in previous years. So on the momentum that we've got from beating Chelsea, and Newcastle were without a couple of players when they lost to Burnley last week. So I'd say we're in slightly better mental shape now than we were, and if we get the first goal, I think this could be a good home win for us. So you're going to ask for a score, aren't you?
Yeah, of course I am.
I would let's go for a 2-0 win.
2-0. I'm going to go for, there's a danger of being optimistic, isn't there? Overly optimistic after that. I'm going to just go for a 1-0. We're just going to grind out another 1-0. Fingers crossed anyway. So, of course, we roughly know who the personnel is going to be. This is what I think the team is going to be for tomorrow. We'll go through that now. So firstly, let's just take you through last week. Of course, we started with the back four that we pretty much expected. It was just a case of which side is Frano going to be on. But it was that back four with Mepham and Francis at the back. And then, unlike the team formation that Bournemouth posted on Twitter, it was clear that it was a 4-5-1, King playing that roving role up front. But yeah, Lewis Cook starting on the right-hand side. And then a three in the middle of Gosling, Lerma and Billing. Fraser on the left. Now, out of them, there were many stars of the show, but man of the match for me, of course, has got to be Dan Gosling. And he's the player that we just cannot see past not starting. He has to start. He was so instrumental. And as we've said, he's that box-to-box player. Now, we've got some stills from some of the attacking moments last week, mostly free-flowing, but a lot of set pieces. And you can see in every single clip, he is in the penalty box. Every single time, every attack, especially in the second half, as Josh King was coming away. But even defensively, he came back when Chelsea were on the break. Here, he was in the thick of the action when he had to be. But yeah, look at him, the most advanced player there when Josh King was attacking. Of course, he was in the right place again, just stretched for that one, couldn't get hold of it. Obviously scored the goal that won us the match, but his defensive work was absolutely sublime. Now compare this with a few matches before. Not a midfielder in the box. No midfielders in the box whatsoever. And that was home against Wolves. Not one centre midfielder in the box. So for me, he has to start tomorrow. But who else? Well, I think that Lerma needs to be in there with him. He was phenomenal last week. It's a really difficult one, actually, trying to work this out, because I don't think playing Burnley warrants this five across the middle formation, but maybe he'll do that. I don't know. I mean, defensively, I think will be pretty much the same. I know Steve Cook's on the road to recovery, but Francis Mepham did really well. A big question will be, once Steve Cook is back, who drops out? Now, I know it's only been one performance for Chris Mepham, and ultimately Steve Cook and Mepham, if Ake was to go, would be the central defensive partnership that would take us forward. However, we'll see about that. So yeah, I mean, these five, yeah, these are all absolutely nailed on, surely. But then it's everyone else. Now, Ryan Fraser, good game last week, likely to start, did really well up and down that left flank. And Lewis Cook, too, on the right, did really well. Now, obviously, that would be usually Harry Wilson. He's out. Dan Juma, he's out. Jordan Ibe, doesn't look like he's going to make an appearance. Well, the next appearance is probably going to be in the docks rather than on the football pitch, which is, not great news. So, but do we then pack out that midfield by having Billing in there as well? Now, Billing, I thought, was really great with his defensive clearances last week, and also just intercepting those through balls between the channels. But can you really pack out the midfield? I don't really know. You know what? I think it'll be pivotal around whether King is fit. Because if he's not, then we haven't really got many other options other than starting Solanke up front on his own and playing Billing there instead. However, what does that then mean for the sort of number 10 role? Who would play a bit more advanced? I really don't know. Maybe Fraser would go out there and maybe Gosling can do a job on the left-hand side. I don't really know. It's one that's going to be basically very pivotal upon what happens to Josh King. But I think Josh King probably will start, like I said. And Solanke did really well when he came on. I'd love to see those two working together. But whether they can create a decent striking partnership, I don't know. They both need to make it incredibly difficult for Callum to come back in the side. So yeah, that's what I would probably go with. Billing, I think when you've got a decent aerial threat with Frano, Chris Mepham shows he can do a job. Lerma's also been very good defensively at times. I think, Philip Billing, that height is really good, but I don't know. I feel as though if there was going to be one to miss out, it would, out of those three, Gosling, Lerma and Billing, it would probably be him. However, you know, very tough to say at this point. I would just love to know what you think about the team formations and how you think we should line up. I thought Lewis Cook actually did a really good job on that right-hand side. And, you know, this man here, absolute star performer, cannot not start. So yeah, whether it is going to be that, who knows? Eddie surprised us against Chelsea, and he'll probably surprise us again by, you know, perhaps he'll play Artur Boric right back and Travers left back. Who knows? We just don't know. Jeff, once again, it's been a pleasure to have you on the preview.
Thanks, Sam. Really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, and leave your thoughts, your comments, your team prediction. What do you think is going to happen? Put them in the comments below. And yeah, fingers crossed, it will be 3 points. Up the Cherries.
Up the Cherries.